Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa. This is our first match preview of the season. Delighted to be joined by Justin. And as you can see, Earl, he's been promoted. He's been in pre-season. On our team sheet, he's been trialist A. So he's been, doing the episodes with me. And he's been promoted to the main event now. So, Earl, how are you?
Yeah, buzzing to make the first team. Looking forward to the season. Nearly there, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. Right. So, Earl, thoughts ahead of the season then? Are you excited, nervous, apprehensive?
Yeah, I'm excited more than anything. It's good to have the Premier League back, isn't it? The Euros were good. Pre-season's good, but Premier League's just different, isn't it? So yeah, buzzing to be back.
Justin, game week 1 of a very exciting season. We've got a lot to look forward to. We're edging towards that game week as it gets closer. How are you feeling? Looking forward to it?
Yeah, ready to go now. I think we're all ready to go. Pre-season's great and new kits and everything's brilliant. Transfers and blah, blah, blah. Lovely. But that first game week, that's where it's at. That when they first come out, the first team news drop, when you see them on that pitch for the first time and you get into the first game, that's what it's all about. Then we can properly start talking about the season and where we're at and then get into the meat of the season.
Yeah, and I think this is where Emery comes into his own now. This is where Emery's in that bunker in a dark room. He's looking at sort of West Ham's players. He's analysing. The players are they've probably had their first 3-hour meeting. They've been in training. They're having another 3-hour meeting. And I think as a Villa fan, that sort of gives me like a warm feeling inside, knowing that Emery's like grafting away with that clipboard. And I'm really looking forward to it, that the amount of detail that goes into it, I think it's going to be eye-opening for a lot of the new players who are currently learning. But I think as Villa fans, we should be going into this now excited, but slightly, a little bit confident as well, because we're a really good team. And I think if I look at Unai's record since he's came in, we've played 63 games, we've won 35, we've drew 12, we're the fourth best out of any team in the league. That's 117 points. And I'm calling it now. Klopp's gone. Unai Emery for me is the second best manager in the Premier League. Earl, what are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going off honours, then it absolutely is. I think he's proven his quality, taking us from where he picked us up near the bottom of the league to Champions League football. He's done an amazing job. So I mean, you have to put him up there, have to give him that respect.
Yeah, Justin, I know we can look at players, and I think every player wants to be better than last season. What will Unai Emery want to do this season? What do you think are his objectives? Do you think he's got personal ones?
I'd say so, yeah. I think they all set down objectives, what they want out of the season, where they want to finish, where they want to be in and amongst, how deep do we want to go in each competition. I think his sort of mantra has always been improve every player. And I think, the better the players we bring in, and if he improves those players, then we're only ever going to improve as an overall team, aren't we? His structure and the way he sets teams out and the way he plays football, the depth that he goes into, as we all know now, with his pre-match, the way he looks into every single team, the people he's got behind the scenes looking at different things. It all leads to that match day and where we find ourselves when the game kicks off. They've all got the information they need. And I think he looks for personal improvement in himself, in his coaching staff and in the players. And if they all buy into that and they all look to improve little by little as each game week goes on, then I think we saw that last season, didn't we? Horrific start first game, but every single game from them onwards, we improved. And yes, there's always going to be blips along the way. You're not going to win every game. But overall, we've seen a real improvement in. I can't think of one player that he hasn't improved and hasn't got better the longer they've been under Unai Emery's tutelage, off the pitch. And every one of them talks so highly of the way he goes on, the way he talks, the information he imparts on every single player. So I think his mantra has always been, everybody self-improves in every aspect. Get your fitness better, your knowledge better, the way you can take on board information better, your nutritional information better. If you just get them 1% each week in and week out, you're going to improve, aren't you? Personally and as a footballer and as an athlete, and throw all them things together with the information you can give them, how they go about each game. It's a recipe for success, isn't it? And that's why he's an elite coach. And this is why we've seen such an improvement in a relatively small amount of time at Aston Villa, because we've got a coach there that delivers week in, week out, and he will not take his foot off the gas. He will keep on going and going and going until he gets perfection. He may never get perfection at Villa, but that is where he's trying to get to.
Yeah, I think he would have been hurt by the Arsenal stuff. I think personally he'd have been hurt by it, but I think what has enabled him to have that drive and that passion is that experience, and I think he's come back to the Premier League so far. I mentioned those stats earlier. He's got the 4th best points tally since he's arrived at Aston Villa out of any other manager. That is absolutely incredible. And I think the next challenge is to be able to keep that going. And I think that will be a test. We're at 2 points a game pretty much there. So I think that's sensational in itself as well. And I think he has got a rebuild at Villa. I think I wouldn't say I'd say it's a mini rebuild, but it's a rebuild to get Villa to the Unai Emery Aston Villa of what we want
it's
Villa
evolution,
to be.
Isn't it?
Yeah, in 3 or 4 years' time. And when we did the season preview and I said that he's here for a long time, not a good time, I think that completely backs it all up, really, that we've got a fantastic manager who's got complete drive, who absolutely loves the place now. And I just can't wait to see how we blossom and we grow again under Unai Emery going into this forthcoming season. And I think one of his big objectives would have been to come back to the Premier League and show what he's all about. And I think to get Villa top 4, that is absolutely fantastic stuff. So absolutely love it. But he is coming up against a friendly foe. Now, normally on match previews, we've got loads of stats that we can go through based on West Ham, but obviously a ball hasn't been kicked yet, so we've got nothing to go off. But we have got something to go off with Emery v Lopetegui. They've played 7 games. Emery's lost 3, he's drew 3, and he's won 1. He came up against Lopetegui when he was at Wolves, and Lopetegui beat us and we drew to them. So Emery hasn't really got the upper hand on Lopetegui. Now, I think this might be a good game where there's a lot of unknowns with West Ham going into the season. And I think there's a lot of unknowns for the fans on how they're going to play, what they're going to do. But Earl, Emery will want to correct this record, won't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't make for the best reading, hearing those numbers in the head-to-head, but I mean, it happens. You're not going to have the best record against everyone, but like you say, it's probably a good time to catch West Ham early on. They've made some good signings, haven't they? Quite a few good signings, new manager, but similar to us, it's about having that time to gel, time to get ready. And I think the West Ham that you see on the opening day, similar to us, won't be the same West Ham you see by Christmas. So potentially a good time to catch them while they're still figuring things out.
Yeah, and West Ham are under a new era now, the Lopetegui era. The David Moyes era was very successful, winning a European trophy. But I think what comes with that at times is the entertainment value, the football side of things, a willingness to want to see better football. And I think sometimes as fans, you can see exciting players that you've got, maybe like Bowen Paquetá, you've got Kudus as well. and think we should be playing a better brand of football. And I think Lopetegui, with his success at Seville, he's been Real Madrid manager, the Spanish manager. He's going to want to come in and implement his style and what he wants to do. And I think West Ham fans will want to see them playing good football and pushing, teams and playing a lot better. I think sometimes the caveat that is that I wouldn't say be careful what you wish for, but I think sometimes the more you open up, the more gaps that can appear, the more space there is to exploit. So I do think there's probably going to be early sort of little points that don't quite work out. I think we're going to do a big tactical preview tomorrow, and you'll be able to find out what I'm talking about a little bit more. But I imagine that they're going to play more of a high line, etc. So I think early signs, I think it would probably be quite exciting for West Ham with Lopetegui coming in. But Justin, how do you see this going with Lopetegui and West Ham?
I think they're going into the season on a bit of a crest of a wave, aren't they? A lot of good signings. They're spending a lot of money. And a lot of fans that I've seen that are putting their, especially on TikTok, putting their teams, where they're going to finish. They're putting West Ham pretty high up. You're talking scraping into the European places, and that carries a big burden for West Ham because they had a good season last year, but Lopetegui hasn't really stamped his authority on the Premier League yet. He came in at Wolves with a big reputation. And I'm going to say he bottled it last summer. He walked away from what turned out to be a decent squad. And I think he basically wrote that squad off and thought, well, I'm not going to be able to bring anyone in, so I'm going to leave. And what Gary O'Neill did when he came in, he harnessed a really good set of players. Yes, they probably haven't got the depth of squad at Wolves that he would have wanted, Lopetegui, but O'Neill could see that he'd got a good 11. And if he could get them playing good football, they had a good season, didn't they? And I think that probably showed a little bit of a bad side to Lopetegui. Now he's gone at West Ham, who, like you said, have done really well under Moyes and have had a couple of, that trophy win a couple of seasons ago, fantastic. And they've got some really, really good players, and they've invested heavily in the squad this summer. So it's going to bring a big, weight of burden on their shoulders. They're going to be expected to be decent this season and comfortably in that top 10. I would think that's where they want to be at, pushing for European places. But every transfer, that Fulcrum, looks a good player. He's 31. He's coming into the Premier League, a very, very difficult league. Totally different to anything he's played in before. A lot of the Somerville signing, I think he's good. Wan-Bissaka, yes, another one. Todd Todibo, I think, the centre-half. They're all good players, but you're asking them to come in and immediately settle into the Premier League, which is very, very difficult, and hit the ground running. A bit like I agree with Earl. I think it could be a very good time to play them. Our first 11 isn't going to be very far away, I don't expect, from players, most of them that have played last season for us. So we're going to be a pretty settled 11, I would hope, going into the first game of the season. So I think it's a good week to play West Ham, I think, away.
Yeah, West Ham signings, Kilman, Somerville, Fulkrug, Wan-Bissaka, Todibo. They've signed an Argentinian lad in the middle of the park as well. Where are you at with them? Where do you think they are? Do you think there will be, an expectation for them to do well with those signings? How highly do you rate Lopetegui?
Yeah, I think the goal for them will definitely be challenging for Europe. Like I say, I think it could take some adjustment time. It's a big stylistic change going from Moyes to Lopetegui. I mean, Lopetegui is a guy who he wants the ball, he wants possession. It might be a bit similar to us, when Emery first came in and we're playing out from the back, and the fans are getting a bit anxious. It's getting a bit risky at the back, but you can see what they're trying to do with the strategy. I mean, with Zuma going out and replacing him with Todibo, it's a clear statement of intent that we want to play with the football. So yeah, the signings are good. We'll just have to see how quickly it can gel, and hopefully it doesn't gel on opening day.
I hope not. Right. So we're talking about their recruitment, And when I was doing a little bit of notes for this, things just kept popping in my head. And then one thing popped in my head, and it was like, I got thinking about like Somerville, thinking that's a really good player. We've done the opposition preview; it's going to be out later in the week, and we were chatting about Somerville as well. And then I started to think, like, Philogene, to me, he's slightly under the radar in this situation. And had Philogene not played for Villa before, I think we probably would have been a little bit more excited by this transfer. I mean, if we go and have a look at the two players, to caveat this, Somerville was in a team that finished third. They were so dynamic going forward. Philogene was a team that finished sort of, I think it was around 7th, 8th, something like that with Hull. So Somerville played 43 games for Leeds and he scored 19 goals and got 9 assists. Jayden played 32 games for Hull. He'd got 12 goals and 6 assists. We've got 4.2 ball recoveries per game for Philogene, 3.4 for Somerville, 56% successful dribbles for Somerville, 49% for Jayden, 43% duels won for Jayden, and 52% for Somerville. Philogene is 22 and Somerville is 22-23 this year. Philogene played 11 games less than Somerville. Earl, do you think Jayden is under the radar at Villa a little bit? And do you think the two players can be compared a little bit, or do you think they are completely different?
Yeah, I think it's close. It's close between them. I think just thinking back, actually, I did some analysis on Twitter back when we signed Morgan Rogers, or just as we were about to sign Morgan Rogers. And I did a quick comparison of a few of those players in the Championship, Somerville, Philogene, Rogers, etc. And they're all actually fairly close to each other. So yeah, I mean, it's a good signing for West Ham, but when we've already had, the deal agreed with Philogene, he already had his wages, sorted and all that kind of thing. It's brilliant deal getting him back, in my opinion. Very close.
And what do you, if I had to say, pick a realistic sort of expectation of what you think we can see from Philogene, what would you think that would be this season?
Well, I think he'll ease into the role as a backup, really. I wouldn't want to rush him. I think what we've seen from pre-season, he seemed to play a bit better when we were at home or down in Warsaw. So yeah, I'd ease him in with minutes, but can absolutely impact from the bench, I think, in my opinion. We've seen the versatility that he's had. He can play on the left, he can play on the right. We were talking a lot last season about potentially being able to flip the system and play with a winger on the other side. But I think we could even this season at times see us play with a proper winger on both sides with Bailey and Philogene. So yeah, I think he's I think he'll have a good season. He'll give us an impact off the bench. He'll give us a different look against different teams. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah, really exciting. Right, so let's turn our attention then to West Ham. It's going to be a difficult game, and I say this on every single one, really, that every single game in the Premier League is very, very difficult, and depends on where we're at. There's always different permutations. We could be playing a team that hasn't won in 5, or etc., or we come up against a player that's not scored in probably God knows how many years, and they'll probably score against us, etc. So it's going to be difficult. I think, West Ham, Lopetegui, first game, atmosphere, it's going to be noisy. And I think for me, for Villa, I think Villa's possession is key. I think if we can get our possession-based game going, quieten it all down, neutralise them a little bit, and just impose ourselves, I think it's going to be interesting. I've gone, my score prediction, I'm going to go early on this. I've gone for a 2-2 because I expect there to be goals and it's on TV, and I just think it's going to be one of them games where you can't really catch your breath at times, and it's a bit messy, a bit chaotic. But Justin, how are you feeling that this game's going to go? Do you think we'll have more of a level of control than that, or do you think there will be goals?
I'm, as always, Luke, I'm positive. I genuinely think we can go into this game and take it to them. You know, they are going through a style change now. They're going through, you know, a lot of the players they've brought in are first choice. They're going to be first choice players. So they're going to have 4 or 5 brand new players in that 11. Now, that can go one of 2 ways. They can either feed off the atmosphere, feed off their adrenaline, and they can have absolute flyers. They could get an early goal, and then that's it. But it could also go the other way. You know, if we are as good as we can be, and yes, we haven't had a brilliant pre-season, but that goes out the window once that game kicks off because the season starts properly. Our first 11 will be out there. They'll all be on it. They'll all be focused. They'll all be driven. They'll all know exactly what they've got to do in that game. And I think if we control the game as we know we can do, West Ham are going to try and play from the back a bit more under Lopetegui. So that, like Earl rightly pointed out, you know, we found that hard adjustment when it happened to us. So are they going to find that hard? And I would hope and think that he will be playing off that and saying, well, press high, you know, get into their faces, right up against them, you know, make them make mistakes at the back, take advantage of this change and shift of what they've got, their mentality, and use our top players to get at them. You know, we've got match winners all over our team, haven't we? And I'm really positive that we can start the season better than we have done for a few years now because we haven't really got off to flyers, you know, very often. You know, so I think if our first 11 is out there, Watkins is playing, Bailey's playing, you know, Rodgers is had a good pre-season, you know, the 2 holding players you would think are going to be Anana and Tielemans. The back 4 is going to be pretty solid, hopefully. Martinez is back. Control the game. I'm always happy with 0-0 at half-time and just then and grow into it, you know, and pick them off. And when we get our chances, you know, take your chances. So, yeah, I think I'm positive. I really am. I think this is a good game for us. Maybe going to West Ham after 10, 12 games is going to be a different kettle of fish than going in the first 1 or 2 when they're finding their feet and they're getting used to playing with each other. It's a big stadium. You're a long way away from the crowd. It's a very odd atmosphere at West Ham. And I think it could be a good game for us. It could be a good game for us to be starting off with.
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, if you were in a time machine last season and you sort of like watch Villa's first game and Villa's last game, you would think that we are pretty much like Conference North, like one of the worst teams going. So, yeah, I think there will be that intensity there from Villa. That you know, there has to be basically. So
I think just one other thing. A lot of people, not writing us off, but a lot of people and a lot of football pundits are basically, I think it's an easy thing to say this season that Villa are going to drop off. Very, very easy to say. Champions League football, we've lost, you know, a couple of big players. They're just going to drop off. They've had their season. They've had their flyer. That's it now. And I think a lot of our players are going to want to say, we're not going anywhere here. You know, we're here to stay, and we're going to put a marker down in the first 2 or 3 games. I also think the Arsenal first home game is a fantastic first home game for us as well. To have such a big game in your first home game, 5:30 kickoff under the lights. You know, we can put a marker down in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and all the bits of negativity coming at Villa from a lot of people. You've got your Champions League football. You're not going to be able to cope going on all fronts. I think once again we're going to surprise people this season.
Yeah, it's one of them though, isn't it? It's like you didn't back us to get there, and then when we're there, you don't back us to stay there, and then you back us to go back. So that outside noise is completely irrelevant because it's not like everybody was buzzing us.
But it's fuel, isn't it? It's fuel. Yeah. They're going to use it as fuel.
Yeah, but it's just like, you know, it's just like you've got like a stick and you just want to keep trying to just beat it down, and it's like it's not moving. It's like so, and I think why I was trying to talk about Emery at the start and show his record since he's been here, it just shows the intensity and the impact that he's had at Villa. And if he carries on that, then like you say, we're not going anywhere. So I'll have a score prediction from you, Justin, then we'll get Earl's thoughts. So your score prediction, what would it be?
3-1 Villa.
Love it, right? Not like you to go semi-big early doors, is it?
Go big or go home. That's what I say.
That's it. Right. Well, to be fair, we haven't had sort of like Earl's score predictions, so I
Be
think
interesting,
people,
Earl. No pressure.
no, because I think people that watch will sort of know that we are quite positive, and you know, I've backed a draw, so like I'm not all out backing us. Justin's the one that sort of does go quite big a lot, so it'll be interesting to get Earl's in a second. But Earl, how do you feel like that game's going to go for Villa?
Yeah, I think we're due a win on opening day. Opening day doesn't bring back too many good memories of the past couple of years. So I'm hoping we're due one. But I agree with what Justin said. To be honest, I hope we go out there and give it to them a little bit. You know, we saw a little bit of a press at times against Dortmund. So I'm wondering if that's something that we're just getting a quick look at to then to put in play against West Ham. I'd like to see us start quick and get after them. Maybe Watkins if he's in and McGinn pressing from the front. You know, test them out, playing from the back. They've had a couple of mistakes and given away some cheap goals, like we have, to be fair, in pre-season. I know it's only pre-season, but yeah, get after them and test them out from the start.
Oh, what would be your team then? I'm going to put you on the spot here. What would be your 11 then? Because you've mentioned McGinn from the front there. So what would you say your team is?
I think I said something different last time I was on, didn't I? I think I said McGinn on the left. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think away from home, it's always difficult, isn't it? So like I just said, I'd like to see Watkins and McGinn up top from the start. You know, press them early, and then maybe later in the game, if we're going well, move McGinn back to the left for his bit more defending. But I'd go with Watkins, McGinn, Bailey on the right is a lock, isn't he?
Yeah.
On the left, I think Ramsey to start off with. I think he offers us, you know, those runs in behind, and I think West Ham, like you mentioned before, have been playing quite a high line, so we'll need that threat of running in behind. So Ramsey's in for me. It's got to be Tielemans and Onana, I think. That's the partnership that's got the most familiarity playing with each other. So from day one, I put them together. Left back, I think Luca Dean. Like I said last time I was on, I think it's his spot to lose at the minute. So I think we'll go with him for continuity. Right back, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why Cash was missing. So it could be Kostin and Delkovic. But yeah, he's looked bright, hasn't he, in pre-season? So I wouldn't be against that at all.
Yeah, Costa bombing on.
Yeah, and then the centre back pairing and goalkeeper pick themselves, don't they?
Yeah. To be fair, it's gonna be interesting what he goes with and how we develop. I think the big thing I always say is that the team that starts first game of the season is never really the same towards the end. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. So score prediction, what you going with?
I'm going to say 2-1 Villa.
Oh, go on then. So I'm the negative one on here today, then, aren't I? So we've got 3-1 Justin. Earl's predicted the win as well. I've gone with the 2-2. So that's it for the first match preview of the season then. Really good. Cheers everyone for watching. Make sure you're smashing the likes, subscribing to the channel. Me and Earl will be back for the debrief as well. So stay tuned for that sort of at the end of the weekend / Monday. But yeah, so cheers everyone. The rest of the content to follow this week is our usual content that we normally do. I've got a very big tactical episode predicted lineup that's going to be out tomorrow. We've then got the opposition preview, we've got the press conference reaction, and then we'll have match reaction, debrief, etc. over the weekend. So cheers everyone. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.